No, no
All
doubt.
Yeah, you
right.
guys going to be talking just basketball or baseball too, or
We're
what?
talking everything normally. So we are live, guys. Welcome back to SBRSportsPicks.com. This is the weekly college basketball roundtable as we descend into March. As always, our guest panel. We're -1 today, but we still have our three musketeers here as well as me. Drew Martin, we'll start out with you. How you been?
Hey, big man, I'm doing good. Excited to talk a little college basketball. A lot going on here going into March.
Yeah, it should be fun as always. We're getting closer and closer. Ian, how you doing today?
Doing really good. Ready to go for another roundtable discussion. Yep.
Yeah, always fun. And Donnie Wright said, how are you, buddy?
Where's my camera?
Doing good. Hey, last night, as you know, there was a short card last night. Was feeling real good, relaxed, watching the game, put on Miami and Virginia. Who knew I would be asleep by 9 o'clock?
Yeah. What a pathetic offensive performance from those two. And Virginia just continues to slide. I mean, they've lost three in a row. Just kind of been brutal. But Miami kind of vaults themselves back in a little bit. They get a win against Clemson the other day. They win a big one in Charlottesville, and they've done it without Jaquan Newton. 3 straight wins for Miami. Jim Larinaga is a hell of a coach. I mean, what he is able to do with little, impressive stuff nonetheless. Anyone want to comment on that?
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, and I would even just say, Miami, as you guys said, the bad offensive performance. You could also look at it as great defense. We know Virginia plays great defense. Miami as well. I mean, I think they're, second in the ACC? So Larinaga's really got those guys getting back on defense. So you do got to tip your cap, but I agree with you. It was a kind of boring game to watch.
Definitely an ugly game. If you had the under, you were definitely happy with it. But as far as, if you like a basketball, you're a purist, that's definitely not something you wanted to let your eyes see last night. But as we talk about coaches, we talk about a great coach last night, Bob Huggins. Kind of a scary scene in that game. He collapses after a timeout. I guess his defibrillator went off or something. But, I mean, you look at Huggins, 22 NCAA tournaments, 2 Final Fours, a multitude of Elite Eights and Sweet 16s. Great coach, always tough to see. He's kind of made that press Virginia thing kind of run, and it's always tough to see something like that. I have some good memories with him. He's one of my favorite coaches. I think long term, maybe this will motivate them a little bit more. What are our thoughts on Bob Huggins? Kind of a scary scene there.
Yeah, really scary, big man. I mean, it just as far as that goes, prayers go out to him. I guess it sounded like like you said, his defibrillator just went off, and he'll be okay. And it happens to him. Scott Van Pelt was talking about it, how it might just kind of be like a little bit of a hard head approach. But as far as on the basketball court, I agree with you. I mean, this press Virginia, he's taken it to a new level. I wasn't as familiar as I'm sure a lot of you guys are with his past. But since he's been at West Virginia, I've been a big fan, and kind of a sleeper Mountaineer fan because of him.
Yeah, I mean, he's made the NCAA tournament every year he's been there except for one. I actually remember one scene. I don't know if you guys remember a couple years ago. He had a really good team back with a guy named Sean Butler, and Sean Butler went down in the Sweet 16 with a season-ending knee injury. And I remember just watching the game. He went on the court and he kind of kissed Butler. It was a kind of a nice scene to see. So many coaches we hear about today are, that they hit their players, or just they're kind of mean-spirited and they care about themselves. But Huggins seems to generally care about the kids, and just a nice scene to see with him. He's always been a guy that I like to root for. Anyone else have any other comments on West Virginia and Huggins?
Yeah, I mean, I think Huggins is one of those throwback coaches. I mean, I'm coming from a lot of the 80s type of perspective. I mean, You had the John Cheneys of the world. You had the Bob Knights of the world. I mean, real surly guys like Bob Huggins. They bring the circus to town and add that flavor element, Jeff. And as you said, players going down. If you remember a while ago, he had the #1 team in the nation with Kenyon Martin when he snapped his leg heading into March Madness. I mean, if you ask other players, other coaches, but ask his players directly, the same with Bob Knight, 99% of them love that tough love, and just a throwback type of guy which you want to root for heading down the stretch.
Yeah, he's always been a fan of mine. And I know Ian, I kind of relate this to what Ian said. He's mentioned the guys like Scott Drew who have continuously lost Baylor basketball games. And down the stretch, I want a guy like Huggins in my corner no matter what. I kind of delve into Baylor a little bit. Ian, I know you're on here. Your boy Scott Drew loses another game for Baylor late on Saturday.
It's brutal. I mean, it really is with this basketball team. I mean, Baylor's in a situation where they can't win a close game right now because the Scott Drew coaching element is just keeping them back. I mean, he just seems to be – I don't know what it is. The team's not making plays. You can't put it all on the coach. But, again, in that Kansas game, I'm seeing some terrible offensive sets being run by this Baylor team. Did they have a clue what they were doing on that final possession when they were down by 2 points against Kansas on Saturday? Terrible shot selection. They didn't run their offense. Just a pathetic way to, hoist up at least a decent look when you're trying to tie the game like that. They didn't even do that. Very disappointing loss for Baylor. I'll tell you what, I know people are going to say circle the wagons. They've lost 2 straight games playing Oklahoma tonight. I'm not laying double digits with this Baylor team, not even maybe tonight. It's hard to trust Oklahoma, I get that, but Baylor's got problems. I think they're an early exit in the NCAA tournament. Their close game struggles are becoming very real and a major concern at this point in time.
And it's been time and time again with this pathetic group. I mean, just ever since Drew got there, just a week or a year after year, just continued poor success late in seasons. I mean, remember a couple of years ago, they lose to Yale in the first round, for God's sakes. I mean, I agree with Ian. I think it's going to be another early exit due to Scott Drew's inability to close games. I mean, the other night with Manu Lecomte going nuts and he gets teed up and kicked out of the game at a crucial spot against Texas Tech. Again, I haven't been sold on this team all year. I just have seen time and time again them look good, through February, and then the last couple of weeks come and they just falter. But an interesting conference there, the Big 12. I mean, I think Texas Tech. I think we could finally drive a nail in their coffin after last night, which I'm happy to see because I'm downright sick of that team, to be brutally honest with you. Let's move on, guys. I think we've talked enough about the Big 12, for God's sakes. Let's go into the Big 10. Kind of an interesting conference because I've been kind of critical of Wisconsin and Purdue, and I knew several of the panel has as well. You look at Minnesota, they get a big win the other day against Michigan. I actually had them in that game. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. Northwestern, Ian's mentioned, they're probably going to get into the tournament at 20-7. Are Wisconsin and Purdue still the teams to beat in this conference? Because I got to tell you, I think this is an open season for the Big Ten.
You guys go ahead. I'm a little bit lighter on the Big Ten this year. I outside of back in Maryland a couple times, I've really just treaded lightly. So as far as the insight, I'll give to you guys.
Yeah, and there's another team, Maryland. I mean, you got to look at them. I mean, they've looked good, but now Tchaikovsky, their big guy, he's down for the year. So just a weird conference. I really believe it's going to be some random team that wins this conference. I mean, is Wisconsin really a team that we have to – I mean, I know they beat who they beat the other day, Maryland. But, I mean, Donnie, Ian, any comments on the Big Ten?
I think it's a 2-team race to me. I mean, it's Purdue and it's Wisconsin. The one thing that is going to struggle, Wisconsin's going to struggle with is Purdue size down low. Ethan Hack runs wild against your softer type players. I mean, just look at Wagner in Michigan the other night. I mean, he got worked every single time down the court for a good 25 minutes until they made an adjustment and started to double team him. Biggie Swanson, a Haas down low. They're going to be able to keep him in check. And I don't know if there's enough that Wisconsin can provide, Caney coming back or maybe getting healthy guard play, but they run that offense down low, and Purdue has 2 maulers down there that are going to really create issues for that program.
I'll tell you what, watch out for Michigan. I'm just going to put this out there. Wagner has turned into a pretty nice presence down low for them. If he could stay out of foul trouble, if they can get production out of a guy like Mark Donnell off the bench, shooting-wise, they're going to stay in games the way they can shoot the ball. And Derek Walton's really starting to play really well for them, and they're well coached as well. Ian, any comments on the Big 12? I know you're a Northwestern guy.
Yeah, Northwestern definitely has potential. Michigan is playing much better basketball. I agree there. They're definitely a team to watch out for. The team that I'm concerned about in this conference is this is usually the time when it's just, okay, here comes Tom Izzo, here comes Michigan State, ready to make their run. I'm not seeing it. I am not seeing it this year with this team. You see him going off on Dan Dockich in the media, talking about, about the comments he made, talking about things that are going on off the court. Tom Izzo looks a little bit frazzled. This team looks a little bit frazzled. I think he's a little bit beaten down mentally by the struggles, by the inconsistencies, by the lack of improvement by this Spartans team. Might be the time of year, or for the first time in ages, it seems, we're going to have to accept the fact This ain't the same old Michigan State team that just flips a switch in February and March and starts to heat up. It may not be the case. It may not be possible with this year's group.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no Denzel Valentine. There's no Draymond Green on this team. I'm sorry. And Aaron Harris's injury hurts them as well. At 16-11, they're going to probably lose 2 of their final 4 games. I just, unless they can win the conference tournament, they're not going anywhere. Let's move on, guys. Obviously, we see a lot more Jerry Palms and Joe Lunardi. I saw Joe Lunardi in the bracket bunker last night. You act like he's a CIA agent down in
Joe Lunardi looks like Rob Vino. Drew and I know who Rob Vino is, a friend of ours at Sports Memo. Oh, my God, the resemblance. It's uncanny. It's like twin brothers. Holy goodness.
I don't know if many
It is
know.
pretty crazy. And I saw what ESPN was doing there with Joe Lunardi. I kind of liked it, a little CIA presence there.
No,
Yeah.
he's definitely entertaining for sure. It's a great job to have. I mean, he works a month out of the year. I actually know locally, and I'm sure Donnie can attest to this.
Yeah.
He was doing a class at St. Joe's for years. It was an elective called bracketology. It was a class you could take at St. Joe's for a number of years. I don't know if he still does it, but he's definitely an interesting character. Yeah, he's definitely an interesting character. But his last 4 in right now, TCU, Marquette, Seton Hall, Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech obviously vaults themselves into it after that nice win against Syracuse. The problem for Georgia Tech is the tournament's not in Georgia Tech. I mean, all their wins have come at home. I think they may get in. I think the likelihood of them winning a game is fairly low, and they could be one of those teams you really look to bet against in the tournament due to the fact of, I mean, other than on the road, I mean, what has this team actually done that we should be excited about?
Funny that you bring that up there, Jeff. I mean, looking at the overall bracket and the teams on the bubble, I remember the last couple of years literally fighting over which teams should get in. And now we're looking at like the last 4 in, like, the Clemsons, the Georgia Techs. It's almost like you just want to flip a coin as opposed to saying this team is absolutely going to get robbed. This bubble might be one of the worst. Like, sometimes you look at those teams and you say this team can get in and make a run. Clemson, Georgia Tech, the Kansas States. I mean, who are these guys?
Yeah, the bubble is really weak this year. And the mid-major group is poor as well. I mean, I've seen a lot of people talking about Illinois State, but I mean, Illinois State hasn't beaten anyone. I mean, other than beating Wichita one time, they've beaten no one. They're not going to get in if they don't win their conference tournament. You look at Tennessee, they've had their struggles. I think they're starting to play better, though, Tennessee. Over the last month, they've actually been decent. Clemson, they had opportunities. They haven't done anything. I mean, the bubble's definitely weak, Donnie, for sure. And I think many can agree as well. I mean, you look at this mid-major pool. I mean, I think New Mexico State was a team people talk about. They've struggled lately. The UNC Wilmingtons, they've lost lately. It's definitely a weird bubble. And, some of these bubble teams getting in, they're going to be a pure bet against for me coming into the tournament, particularly a Georgia Tech type of team.
The fact that Clemson's on the bubble, 4-10 in ACC play, without a quality road win in ACC play, that speaks volumes about the weakness of the tournament bubble this year. I mean, boy, oh boy. I mean, there's teams that really, you scratch your head and think, how is this resume NCAA tournament worthy? And Clemson, the fact they're even sniffing the bubble right now, and even in the discussion, tells you all you need to know.
Right. No, it's a great
I think
point.
what Lenardi was saying, that the word he was using was the bubble's soft compared to past years. And Big Man, you hit on a lot of this. I mean, Georgia Tech, Tennessee is actually considered. And Georgia Tech was 8-4 before ACC play. They have really turned it around. But a lot of times these bubble teams get matched up, against other bubble teams almost in that 8-9 matchup. So hopefully that doesn't happen too much. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I would look to kind of fade these bubble teams in the tournament. And hey, it's interesting you bring up Illinois State. Do you think McIntosh coming back, getting healthy, could actually help them in the run, and maybe the Missouri Valley Conference getting 2 teams in instead of maybe the ACC getting 11?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think for the Redbirds, they're not going to get in. I mean, they're out of conference schedule, just not good enough. I mean, they've had their bed. They made their bed. Now they have to sleep in it. McIntosh was in there against the likes of Tulsa and San Francisco and Murray State and TCU, and they couldn't get the job done. The problem with that conference is the only team that gets any sort of respect nationally is Wichita State. They're probably going to win this tournament. Illinois State needs to put up or shut up at this point and win this conference tournament, or they're not going to get in. It's just that simple. I don't know how you can justify putting a team like them in with the schedule that they play. I mean, you just can't.
Yeah, they're going to have to
One thing
win the
you're finding
conference
out in
tournament, and
recent-
then Wichita State's going to have to be the at-large.
Right.
Yeah, and the one thing you're seeing in recent years, this tournament committee, they really, really care about non-conference strength of schedule, road wins, especially in non-conference. From that standpoint, Illinois State kind of scuffles a little bit. It's kind of worrisome in that regard. So you just, I think Illinois State's in a situation where to guarantee they get in, they're going to have to win Arch Madness in St. Louis there in a week or so.
And that's very possible. I mean, Drew mentioned McIntosh coming back. That's going to be a big grab for them. If they, they can definitely win that tournament. Wichita, we all know, very strong at home, but they're more vulnerable on the road. And listeners, feel free to send us in any questions you want to have. I'm getting a lot of questions DMing as far as games tonight. We try to keep this show to a little bit more of a bigger picture. We'll definitely I have my podcast later. Donnie and I will do that. We can definitely answer any game you want. But we try to keep this to a larger scale. We have some listener questions. We'll get to them at the end. One comment on Brad Burnell, guys. 7 years he's been at Clemson. He's made the NCAA tournament one time. I mean, what gives with this guy? I don't understand. I guess, look, they are in a tough conference. I know that, but he's had some talent down there. I mean, this year's team's not that bad. Last year's team, not that bad. What's the love affair of Brad Burnell? I don't know if anyone has any comment. I know, Drew, you're down in that neck of the woods. They can't get anyone better?
I guess they got talent. He's been able to recruit, but they're in the ACC, man, and it's tough. So in order to go up in the conference.
He's had NBA players, Drew. He's had KJ McDaniel. He's had Trevor Booker. I mean, he's had NBA players. I think a Blossom game, a really good player. I just don't get it.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't have a good answer for you. I was trying to give the other side, but I agree with you. I mean, there's other NBA players in the ACC. I guess that's a comeback. But, I don't get it either, man.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I guess maybe that they think he's the best that they are going to get. I don't know. But, I mean, at some point, I mean, we got to see at least a tournament berth, for God's sakes.
Well, in years past, Clemson's played somewhat decent defense under Brad Brownell. But that's totally fallen off a cliff this year, and that's been their biggest issue. This defense has been awful for the most part for Clemson. And I know Clemson's taken a ton of money tonight against Virginia Tech on the road, knowing they need a decent, at least, road win in the ACC to bolster their tournament hopes. But my goodness, I am not trusting this Clemson defense away from the home. And I'm not joining that Clemson money train that is taking that line down all the way to 1.5 last I looked.
I'll take a phrase from our good friend Teddy Covers. Just because they need to win doesn't mean they're going to win. Yep. That's something that I definitely think of. At the end of the day, I just think Clemson's just not very good. So I guess our whole conversation is bubble sucks. Not a lot of great mid-major teams. And that kind of gets me into our next question. What are some teams right now, and this would maybe help some of the listeners maybe for tonight's card or going forward, what are some teams that you've been betting on personally that have made you money throughout the year? Because as we get into these tournaments, we're going to see those situations pop up. Donnie, I'll start with you. Is there any team that you've been riding that you've like to let anyone know about that's made you money?
Not necessarily riding at this point, but one that you should be riding down the stretch. And riding, as I mean fading in opportunities. NC State. Coach fired. You have a top 5, top 10 NBA draft pick on that team. The only thing he's looking for right now is I don't want to twist my ankle and have a bad combine coming up. Last 5 games, 0-5 against the spread. 0-5 straight up. Last 9 games heading out on the road. 1-8 to the number. That's a team you can stick a fork in. Saturday was that last stand. You wanted to just see if they could come out and say, hey, let's win one for the Gipper. Let's play well. Notre Dame blew the doors off of that team at home. That team's dead. Stick a fork in them heading down the stretch. Look to fade them as they go along.
100%, Donnie, and I'm not scared to admit that I have Georgia Tech in pocket tonight. I think they'll take care of business against this woe-begotten NC State team.
Yeah, it's funny you guys mentioned that. We actually had a question about that. What are our thoughts on NC State going forward? And Donnie, I think, hit it right on the head. I mean, this team has given up 87 points per game in conference. Opponents are shooting almost 50% against them. This team is dead, buried. I don't get why Godfrey sticks around. I respect him for doing it. But, I mean, this team is lost. So fading. Drew, what do you have?
Donnie, I'm getting a little background. I don't know if you guys are not.
Yeah, I'm getting some background too. Ian, it might be your mic, I think.
Yeah, the camera software has crashed, so that's why you don't see me right now. Yeah.
I guess I will say one thing. If you're not talking, just maybe hit mute or something. I don't know. Maybe that will make it better.
Yeah, but just to follow up on Donnie's comment, like I agree with you, Donnie. I mean that's a great one to fade. And a lot of times, like when we talk about backing teams, what teams are you looking to back? It's sometimes as if not more important to fade teams going forward, because a lot of times these teams fall a lot faster than other teams will rise. And one team I'll bring up, and I'd like to get all your guys' comments on it, is down in the SEC in my territory. Looking to fade Florida going out. If you've been fading them the last 3 times, they're 1-2 ATS with their only against the spread win coming against Auburn, who's in free fall mode. So, with Florida having, the big boy go down, who was their top shot blocker, their top rebounder. I think that this is really going to hurt, and more than just scoring, it's going to hurt them on the defensive side. And when you look at their schedule to end the regular season, they got South Carolina, at Kentucky, and Arkansas, which is about as tough of a schedule as you can get in the SEC down the stretch. And then to end it, they're at Vanderbilt. And we all know that at Vandy is a tough, unique place to play. So looking forward, I'm actually looking to fade the Gators, and I'd be really surprised if they go 500 against the spread. And who knows, they could drop them all.
Yeah, laying a big number tonight against South Carolina, which listen, Donnie and I, we like to look into lines a little bit. That doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, a lot like
Fest coming out right there.
Yeah, lots like that Virginia game last night. I mean, a lot of people you kind of read into that line a little too much. Yeah, definitely weird. But Egbunu hurts. I mentioned that on my own. I thought, Drew, you make a great point. Not only is he going to rebound, block shots, but he's got great energy. He's kind of the glue guy in the front court. And against a Kentucky, against a team like that, you have to have some and even in like some of the smaller matchups, like if you face a team like Ole Miss in the tournament, I'll tell you what, Sebastian Saiz is a very good player, great rebounder. Not having that presence down low will hurt them going forward. So I think they're definitely a great team to fade. I think maybe a couple to keep an eye out on. I've mentioned this all year. George Mason, when they're an underdog, they have to be bet. I don't get why people haven't bought into this team yet. They're 10-3 as an underdog this year. I mean, one of the better underdog teams you're going to find. SMU, I think they continue to fly under the radar. No one talks about SMU nationally. I don't really know why. They're getting a little bit of love lately, but I really believe with the cohesion they have and a starting 5, starting 6, which they don't have a lot of depth, I really like what they've done. Really good win at Houston, laying numbers. Yeah, I like both those teams. As far as fade, I think you guys hit it on the head. Somebody's asking about LSU continuing to fade them. Yeah, I think they're another team you stick a fork in. They've been a stick a fork in kind of team all year.
Hey, big man, be careful with that one though, because they play Auburn tonight, and they're fade city as well.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, I guess tonight though, Auburn laying 3. I mean, I don't really want to lay points ever with Auburn, and I guess flip a coin on that one. Somebody asking about that one. That is one I'll mention. I don't know why you would want to bet that game. Never put your money on bad teams, and never put your money on 2 bad teams. That's even worse. Ian, do you have anyone that you're fading or betting on?
Iona in the Metro Atlantic. Terrible home loss to Ryder as nearly double-digit favorites in that game. They're not playing great defense. I don't think they're shooting the 3 ball as well as they have in the past under Tim Kluse. And when that team's not shooting the 3 ball, they're not as good. That's all there is to it. I think Iona in a little bit of trouble down the stretch. I think they could be an early exit in the Metro Atlantic tournament. The more I see this team struggle, they've always been one of those teams right there in contention to win this Metro Atlantic tournament year after year. I don't think this team is good. They could be looking at an exit earlier than usual come tournament time, conference tournament time.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely good offensively always. I mean, I think we all know that. But, I mean, this is a team. I mean, what happened against Marist the other night? I mean, what is that all about? I mean, you mentioned they lost to Ryder. Yeah. They just are a brutal defensive team year after year. And it actually leads me into my next point, guys. And I think, Ian, you've made this point. I think in that conference, St. Peter's has to be looked at in that conference tournament. They're probably going to get a nice dog price. I mean, we all always fall in love with, in that conference, Manhattan, Iona, Monmouth. I really believe St. Peter's is you have to look at them when you're betting conference tournaments. They are a must bet for me. Anyone else? I think all of us can agree with that.
I agree. A Peters-Monmouth championship game in that tournament, that conference tournament, Peters and Monmouth, if they square off, and I think that's what it will be. Boy, that would be a fantastic basketball game, and I think Peters would be a live dog in that matchup.
Yeah, I think the Peters Paycocks have made all of us a lot of money this year, particularly on the road. Donnie, you've mentioned that. I think they're 10-1 on the road this year against the number. Just fantastic stuff from those guys up in Jersey City. just really quality defensive, and they're one of the only teams in that conference that plays any defense, and I think that's really going to help them going forward in this MAC tournament. Any sleepers, guys? And this is kind of an interesting question. I was thinking about the other night with a certain team that I'm going to mention. Give me a team in maybe a mid-major, smaller conference that no one really talks about, but can win their conference tournament. A nice dog price, a plus 700 or something like that, like a St. Peter's. I'll start it out, and I'll let you guys follow. I maybe need to think about it for a second. Donnie, I mentioned this to you, and this was going to be totally off the rocker. Tennessee State in the Ohio Valley, and I'm going to say it for one reason or two reasons. Tajir McCall's back, okay? He's a senior. He makes them go as a team. Wayne Martin is a fantastic big. And Belmont has kind of struggled a little bit down the stretch. They're winning games. They're not blowing out teams like they were. I think with senior leadership, Dana Ford is a very good coach. They scheduled out a conference against the likes of Duke and teams like that. I think that's really going to help them going into this conference tournament. They're senior laden. None of them want the season to end. I think they can make a run. And we've seen in this conference last year with a team like Austin Peay didn't look good in the season, did kind of something late, and got it done. I think Tennessee State's really worth the look. I think they can knock off of Belmont with their senior leadership. Tajir McCall makes them go. Watch out for the Tigers. I'll let you guys comment. I definitely have some others, but Donnie, you have anybody?
That up because I'm looking a little bit more big picture on that one out of the OVC. I'm thinking if Belmont can get into the tournament itself, they're going to create havoc in that first round matchup. I mean, just look what they bring to the table. Everything that you want heading in with a senior laden team. Fantastic coach that's going to be able to call a great game out of timeout, out of bounds plays, settle the team down, use the extra timeouts in the tournament because you're going to get a lot more than with TV. You're going to have Evan Brads out there, who's one of my favorite players in college basketball. If you look at him, he's a smaller version of Ethan Happ out of Wisconsin, if you can picture that. Austin Luke is that time and time again point guard that you need that's going to be a floor general heading down the stretch. You need a sniper who can shoot. They have that in Nick Smith Sr., 44% from three-point range. And then they also have a KZ down low, who's that Shayok type of mold from UVA. If they get into the first round, let's just say if Syracuse makes a run in the ACC tournament and gets in, this is the type of team that can knock Syracuse out round one. I'm looking for Belmont, if they get into the tournament, to win a round. That's my team that can sleep and maybe even make a run to the
Yeah, I mean, as far as Belmont's concerned, they have they're in the tournament currently as a 13 seed against Butler. That's what Lenardi has currently. Yeah, I agree. If they definitely get into the tournament, I mean, they have a lot of really good things you have to like as far as a team's concerned. They always give someone a run. Drew, how about you? Anyone you're looking at that maybe can surprise?
I guess I read your question wrong when you sent it out before, Big Man, because instead of scrambling for like a plus 700 tournament, sorry about that. I kind of read it as betting on a team to make a run in the tournament from a small conference. No problem.
You can give us that too. No biggie.
All right, that's what I'll go with. And I'm going to go with the Princeton Tigers. I know it's out of the Ivy League, and they'd have to finish off the season, but they have 3 seniors, 2 juniors in the rotation. They actually have a
conference tournament this year, Drew. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, they do. And isn't it only 4?
4, yes, correct.
Okay. Yeah, my fault. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I had to read about it as well. But, so they'd have to win that little mini tournament. And, Spencer Wentz is their point guard. I think that betting on really good point guard play with efficient defense is a way to kind of get a lower-seeded team to pull the upset. So to answer, I guess, my question, not yours, I'd go with the Princeton Tigers going forward.
I think you make a good point there. I mean, Cal, they played, VCU, BYU, Monmouth. I mean, they definitely challenged themselves, beat a very good Bucknell Bucknell team and out of conference play, I think you make a really good point. They're definitely probably the favorite in that conference. And we know always a tough offense to kind of prepare for. Ian Cameron, what about you?
Well, remember me because I'm back. I'm talking about the Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders out of the Conference USA. This team is loaded for bear. Boy, if they played great in conference play. In the NCAA tournament, look out for them. I think they're winning this Conference USA tournament with ease. I don't think it's a question at all. They are a three-headed monster. Reggie Upshaw, Ja'Cory Williams. Everybody should remember this team from last year when they beat Michigan State in the NCAA tournament, led by Giddy Potts, one of the best names you'll ever hear in college basketball. This Middle Tennessee State can flat out score. They can defend. They can do it all. Middle Tennessee State is going to be a pain in the ass for whoever they play in the NCAA tournament, and I'm going to giddy up with Middle Tennessee State.
Thank you, Ian. That was a great breakdown. I agree with you 100%. I mean, beat Ole Miss, UNC Wilmington, Tennessee State, Vanderbilt, close losses to VCU. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that three-headed monster that you mentioned, they play great defense. They're going to run away with this conference tournament. Conference USA is bad.
Giddy up time.
All right. Joe Gavassi Jr. here. Taking a page out of Joe Gavassi's book with the sound effects. University of Bucknell, someone asking about them. Yeah, look, Joe, they shouldn't have any problem getting through the Patriot League. They're commanding in that conference up 2 games. Maybe look out for a BU type of team, but I don't see any Holy Cross making a run this year. This Bucknell team, early exit last year, played very good defensively, good offensive team. And they have a guy in Zach Thomas who really can knock it down from anywhere. I like Bucknell. They should be able to get the job done in the Patriot League. Before we go, guys, take a quick couple questions here. We mentioned Bucknell. Somebody's asking about Rhode Island. I don't know if he means tonight or going forward. Yeah. Look, we've talked about Rhode Island before. I think they're a team at large should get into the tournament with kind of what they've done this year out of conference. Anyone want to comment? Donnie, I know you're an A-10 guy. Any Rhode Island thoughts?
I'm waiting for them to turn it on, to be honest with you, Jeff. I mean, all year long, I know they're getting some guys healthy throughout the season, but this is one of the year you thought they can actually win this conference outright and get into the tournament. I'm just waiting. I mean, losses to Dayton and Fordham. I get you're going to lose to Dayton, but you should beat them at home. That's one of those games that you rise up for. And one of the most pathetic offensive performances of the college basketball season. If you want to pop in a tape and watch Rhode Island Fordham, it's going to burn your eyes out. 43 total points. I remember watching this game and checking it out on my monitor. When the game went to halftime, I thought it was done. It was actually the final. 53-43. I'm waiting on this team to do something, Jeff.
Yeah, the problem with Rhode Island, and it would happen last year with them, they just have these nagging injuries that don't seem to ever go away. I mean, E.C. Matthews tore his ACL last year. I mean, Jarvis Garrett's been injured with the flu at times. Terrell's been injured. Yeah, I mean, you look at that game against Fordham. I mean, 30% from the field, just a pathetic performance. I don't know what Hurley's doing. They look great at times, and then they look just totally lost. I don't know about them. I know tonight they're playing against LaSalle in LaSalle. Never easy to go into Tom Gola and win. I don't know, man. That's something that I would avoid right now.
And big man, they actually lost to LaSalle, I believe, by double digits. At early conference.
Yeah, lost by 12.
Season play. So I agree with both of you guys. I mean, they're really volatile, and I'm not so sure. Are they for sure going to be an at-large team if they don't win?
Yeah, I kind of misspoke there. I mean, they did lose to Duke, Valpo, Providence, and Houston all on the road, but they did beat Cincinnati, beat Belmont. Again, you might be right on that. I mean, they have a good – that Fordham loss was hurt. I mean, that hurt them a lot.
They need these last 4 games. I mean, they got VCU at home and they got Davidson at home. They're must-wins. I mean, they have to have all 4 of these final games.
3-game point spread losing streak, too, for Rhode Island. Sort of suggests that maybe they're a little overvalued commodity right now. I'd not be looking to lay road points here tonight with them.
No.
Yeah, good. That's a good point. Guys, anything else that we want to discuss here before we wrap it up? Any burning desire to mention anything else?
I'm good.
Not particularly.
Ian, anything?
No, I'm pretty good. Other than my camera software pissing me off right now, I'm fine.
No,
Yeah, I would say the one last thing I like to ending leads. It seems like we talk about it every year. I'll bring up one that I watched the entire time, which was Memphis and UConn. I was sitting on a Memphis +4 ticket, counting my money, and all of a sudden, Tubby Smith and his boys, I don't even know if they got a shot off in the last 6 minutes. I don't know what they were doing. Thank God for a late putback dunk, which gave me the winner in that one. But just, I don't know if you guys have had it, but the collapses when it looks like you can't lose this game when you're getting points and you lose it, it's been amazing this year.
It's not only been that, but it's also been going into overtime in the last 3 weeks. I mean, the amount of overtime games that I've seen is just, it's unreal. I mean, literally every game it seems like is close to the end. I mean, last night you had that Virginia game go late. You had Michigan on Sunday. You had Texas Tech, Iowa State last night. I mean, I got to tell you, two things on my mind that I want to point out. If you're betting the Big 12, I got to ask you, why are you still betting it? I mean, this conference is a total shit show. I mean, no one can close games out. The officiating's been horrible. And that leads me to the next point. The NCAA has to look at not only one official in particular, but these officials this year have been awful. And it's every year. But a guy like Ted Valentine, it's a wonder that he continues to get high-profile, high-level games. It's just astounding to me. He is a terrible official. Horrible.
Oh, terrible calls. Two of them at the end of that Miami-Virginia game last night. Brutal calls that went against Miami. But justice was served. They won in overtime anyway. But my goodness, all ball on the contact on both of those plays. Both called fouls against Miami. It's a joke, and he was right there in perfect position, and you still miss the call. You still make the mistake and call it the way it shouldn't be. Just awful stuff from some of these officials.
And even Doris Burke, she mentioned she's usually pretty monotone as far as what she does and says, but even they commented on the lack of officiating.
That's what I love about McDonough, big man. Sean McDonough, when there's a referee mistake, he's going to mention it. Doesn't matter if it's on Monday Night Football or college basketball, whatever. Sean McDonough is going to mention it and say, hey, that's a terrible call. That's why Sean's one of the best in the business.
Billis does it also, and that's kind of why I like him as well. He doesn't shy away from, criticizing officials. It has to be done more for sure. All right, guys, we'll wrap it up. We'll end it with a couple of, plugs and things like that. Ian Cameron, where can we find you and what do you have going on?
We're at sportsmemo.com. Sorry about the camera software crashing during the shoot, but that's the way it is. You won't see me. You won't see me. You haven't seen me today, but we'll be back next Tuesday. Little Beatles there. Sportsmemo.com, NHL, college basketball in full swing. Check it out there. Twitter at Bobano.
Ian, you never fail to not entertain. I give you that. Drew Martin, where can we find you?
Ian, I love it, man. You can also find my work at Sports Memo, SBR contributor as well, and on Twitter at Drew Martin Bets.
I think Joe Gavassi and Ian Cameron should do a breakdown on games solely through singing and sound effects. I think that would probably be pretty funny. SBR, I know you're listening. Maybe we should make that happen at least once.
Sports bets and animal sounds.
Just singing and giving your pick through the mascot.
We'll add it to the schedule.
Yeah,
Okay.
in general tomfoolery. Yeah.
Drew, Donnie Rightside, where can we find you?
You can find me at DonnieRightside.com. Also, the good people at TrendBetting.com. My Twitter handle at RightSideVP. Come check me out there. Also, very happy me and Jeff will be doing the right side of campus tomorrow, starting at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. So it's nice to be a part of the SBR family. Knowledge is king here. We have a lot of fun doing this. Like you see, every week we do this on Tuesdays. It's a lot of fun. I respect all of these guys. Take a little bit of knowledge from each and every one of them, and hopefully it makes you a little bit of money there.
Yeah, and Donnie kind of points out we will be starting our show tomorrow. Check it out. Same time, 12:30. It will be more of a daily kind of thing. We'll kind of look at everything going on. We'll include our, personal lives, things that are going on in our life. Also, catch Ian Cameron. He'll be on Sportsbit, I believe. Is that correct, Ian, tomorrow?
Yeah, it'll be on the Wednesday Sportsbit show talking NHL hockey, a little pucks. I know it's basketball season, but there's money to be made on the ice too. So looking forward to that with Teddy and Paulie.
Very good. You can also catch Drew Martin. You're doing some daily or some weekly MLB previews, which is great. And guys, Daytona 500 coming up on Sunday. I made a video about it on SBR. there's definitely some good value in some certain drivers. Feel free to look out for them as we head into the Sprint Cup Series as well. I do NASCAR, if you can believe that. Everyone have a great night. You can find me on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. You can also find me tomorrow, right side of campus with Donnie Rightside. We'll be breaking down more college basketball. Thank you guys, as always, for joining us. Always great stuff. We'll be back next Tuesday with another show. I'm sure Ed will be back with us as well as we descend into March Madness. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Take care, fellas.
See ya.
All right, guys.